the way that we use the word growth and the way that we look at that can create some long-term problems when it comes to our maturity in our lives and in our businesses. If you align your life around the idea of chasing fulfillment through accomplishment, that you will end up not being fulfilled, you'll end up not having a sense of purpose, and you'll kind of not end up doing what we think is important, and that is becoming who you're created to be. Real estate professionals, welcome back to the one place that's here to impact, empower, and encourage you, the RMG Agent Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Reed Moore, with my partner in crime, Jake Bartlett. And if you want more from us, please go to rmgagentpodcast.com. You can get all of the goodies, the action guides, and everything. And then please like, subscribe, thumbs up, all of the different things, and send this to people that you love and care about, and let them know that you love and care about them, and that we love and care about them and want to see them succeed. Jake?
I am here.
All right, what do we got today? What are we doing?
We have got a great episode for you, but before, if you didn't watch our last episode, which was Hooked on a Feeling.
So good.
Professionalism isn't enough. Go back and watch that one. It was a great one. It was a fun one to do. And also, it's going to be very informative for you. Today, we have From Growth to Maturity, Navigating Real Estate Success.
Yes, nothing like talking about maturity to make you want to act immature.
Yes, the pre of this was very immature.
It was so fun, so good.
Yes.
So
yeah, but this is going to be a great one. So we have a couple things to lay out for you, and I think the first and foremost, most important thing for us to start with is defining success versus accomplishment.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've seen over the years is that there can be a really big push around this conversation for growth. And I've pushed that conversation, you've pushed that conversation, and in broad strokes, it's just great, right? We want real estate professionals to grow. Probably, 90% of our episodes have been about real estate growth, right? Growing into your professionalism, growing into who you can be, growing into your goals, all of those things. The challenge is that the way that we use the word growth and the way that we look at that can create some long-term problems when it comes to our maturity in our lives and in our businesses. And so we did a whole day with our team here a couple weeks back, where we really focused in on the different things to be able to help not just grow but mature our lives. Because we believe at RMG that it's not just about selling more real estate; it's actually about empowering and bringing wealth and wholeness to the individual in their life. And out of that, it comes a better experience when it comes to the real estate business, right?
Yep.
So the framework of how we want to start that conversation is this idea that there are two different things that are not the same. We use them as synonyms, which are success and accomplishment, but fundamentally they are different concepts and they're different words. And the way that I've learned to define those things is accomplishment is a really, really simple thing. Accomplishment means I set out to do something, and I did it, right? I set out to win a Super Bowl, and I won the Super Bowl. I set out to run a marathon, and I won the marathon. That is a big accomplishment, and that's great. And so the challenge with accomplishment is that you will find that if you align your life around the idea of chasing fulfillment through accomplishment, that you'll end up not being fulfilled, you'll end up not having a sense of purpose, and you'll kind of not end up doing what we think is important, and that is becoming who you're created to be. Right? So accomplishment is something that's really important. It's important in your business. It's important across all kinds of areas of your life. But if your life's paradigm, like the greatest thing that you can experience in your life is accomplishment, you'll find it deeply unsatisfying. And you know that to be true when you have one of those peak moments. Right? You set out to do an Ironman race, or you set out to do some big accomplishment. You set out to climb a giant mountain, and you get to the top, and it's awesome. And you're excited, and you're high-fiving people, and it's genuinely exciting. And that excitement lasts from like somewhere between like 30 seconds to maybe a week or two. Mm-hmm. But then the magic of the moment wears off. Frequently it wears off far before you expected it to. And it always leaves you kind of with this sense of, man, I thought that was going to be the fulfilling thing. And so the issue is not the accomplishment itself, it's our paradigm of referencing what we think will be success through accomplishment. And so the process of maturing starts with understanding this idea that we want to orient ourselves around success, not accomplishment. And so success, the way that we define that is success is becoming who you're created to be. Right? And the great idea here, I think, is that, if I am on this mission to figure out who I was created to be and then aligning my words and my actions behind that and then maturing in that, then what happens is to be able to evidence that, I need to go do things. I need to go accomplish things. But now I climb the mountain and I get to the top and there's a deep sense of gratitude. There's still the celebration, but what just happened is I just moved a little closer on maybe my health and fitness journey. And so it comes with the high, but it doesn't come with the purposelessness on the backside. And so to frame up this conversation, I think that if our listeners are listening to this and they've just been all about accomplishment, or maybe even they've been told to just set a goal and that'll fulfill you, it just simply won't.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on this. So if you're looking for accomplishments as your identity, right? Like that's going to be a very hollow thing. And if those accomplishments come as a on the road to the success or who you were meant to be, you're looking at the difference between like an accomplishment as a checkbox.
Yes.
It's something that you can check off and say that it's done. Whereas when it's on the road to who you're supposed to be or on the road to success, it's a benchmark on that, right? Like that's the difference.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so it's just a very, very small shift. But the reason we think this is so important for this conversation is that when we start thinking about growth and maturity, we can grow in a skill set, but not mature as a person. Mm-hmm. And that really, really happens kind of at a foundational level when we're focused on accomplishment, not on success.
Nice. Okay. So we're going to jump into the maturity conversation here of relationships. So there's 3 key relationships. What are those?
Yeah. So I have, as a human being, I really have 3 different relationships that I need to be able to grow and develop in. And so I have a relationship with myself, right? It's the one person you just can't get away from. If you have a horrible mental attitude, you have, your mindset is constantly spiraling, all of that stuff, you have a big problem because you have a dysfunctional friend, you have a toxic friend, and the problem is that friend goes to bed with you, goes to work with you, goes in the car with you. Like you cannot separate yourself from the relationship that you have with yourself. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about mindset and all the things that matter, we're really talking about this relationship that is the relationship that I have with myself. You can't get away from it. Right? And so we want to work on that. We want to grow ourselves. But where I think we get trapped in our industry or maybe in our society or however you want to frame that is that when growth becomes self-centered and self-focused, it becomes exactly what you would think it become, and that is selfish and self-centered, mm-hmm. Right? So if you think about all the narcissism that you see on social media, or that you think you see, right? Or you see people who are like, man, that person is so selfish. They are so self-centered. You can actually grow in your real estate career by focusing solely on yourself, be completely self-absorbed and self-centered, and accomplish big things, mm-hmm. Right? Like I've seen it so much, right? You can genuinely do that. The question is, if you're doing that, are you growing or are you maturing? Right?
Yeah. So the reason I love the word mature in here is it makes me think of my kids and the immature things that they do, specifically in this self part of the model here that we're talking about. And you think about a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old, which I have both of. They're pretty darn self-centered on the things that they want, right? Like they very rarely think about somebody besides themselves.
Absolutely. And, so when we talk about maturity and immaturity, I kind of want to break up maybe some of our thought process on that. And that is, I don't want us to think about a mature person versus an immature person because it's just too simple. The reality is that we are all in the process of maturing, which means that across all the different areas of our life, we are all at some level of immaturity.
Yep.
Right, that's the deal. So when we look at our kids when they're little, they are very immature across lots of different areas of their life. Right? So immaturity isn't this bad thing or like, oh my gosh, my kids are so immature. Your 5-year-old's immature. Are you shocked by that?
Right.
Like, no, that's that's who you are when you're 5. The problem is, are you still at that same level of emotional immaturity when you're 35? That becomes a problem. Right. So we want to think about this idea of, instead of immaturity being this negative label, being a place of, can I engage in the reality habit and be honest with myself as to where I am in my maturity, and then can I move forward from there? Right. I expect my kids until they get to a certain age to be self-centered. And by the way, the reality is, if you're immature in some area of your life, there is a period of time where you probably do need to focus on yourself. If you're really, really grossly out of weight or overweight, right? You're very, very unhealthy. You're immature. You're immature in the physical fitness area of your life, right? Been there for such a significant part of my life, as embarrassing as that to say. But the reality is that in my immaturity, I had to be self-focused and self-centered for a period of time to be able to really mature, to grow in that area, so then I can start to mature.
Yep.
Right? So it is a part of this, is like there's a season of life in different areas where you're going to be self-centered and self-focused because of immaturity.
Perfect. Okay, so what is our next portion of this model is others.
Yeah, so I have a relationship with myself, and if I stay there, I'm self-centered, I grow, but I don't mature. So the next thing is that I start realizing that where growth becomes maturity is when I start realizing and acting like my life is not about me. Right? And man, it's such a prevalent conversation where people, they're just like, I have to take care of myself. And like, they just kind of puff up and just get bigger. Like they're saying something. Everybody's like, yeah, that's great. And I'm just like, well, maybe you're there. Right? But if you stay there, you're immature. Like you're in this state of immaturity, because ultimately, if you take a look at your life, and you don't just take a look at your life, but you take a look at your purpose, and you take a look at fulfillment and joy and all this stuff, it is absolutely not found in you growing you for the sake of you. That is an absolute dumpster fire of a life.
Right.
After the point where you kind of get some basic things together. So we start realizing that we have these two other relationships. One is a relationship with other people, and our relationship with other people is to serve them. And that causes me to be able to wake up with this whole new idea about my growth. And that is, am I growing in these skill sets? Am I growing in my emotional intelligence? Am I growing in my spiritual life? All this stuff, so that I can serve people at a higher level. There's all kinds of positive consequences from this. There's healthier relationships, there's more prosperity, there's more purpose, there's just all of these things. And it's kind of a sign of maturing if you wake up one day and you start realizing that you're sacrificing a lot to lead other people. You're sacrificing a lot to serve other people. That's going to be much more fulfilling. And then the other relationship is the vertical relationship with God, and that is a trusting relationship. And so it's this idea that I have these three relationships in my life, that if I am growing in all three of these, I'm actually maturing as a person. If I'm maturing as a person, I am moving my life towards who I was created to be, which is created to be somebody who is an independent in my relationship with myself, not codependent, interdependent with other people, and fully dependent on God. And the closer that I get to those relationships all coming into alignment, the more mature that I'm becoming, and the more I'm going to find myself in success instead of accomplishment.
Yeah, you're gonna be in deeper success in each one of those relationships,
yes,
depending on what category they fall on.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got 3 points or 4 things actually here that define maturing in something. So The first one is intentionality. What is that about?
Yeah, so if we take a look and we just say, all right, there's these 4 overarching elements to maturity. By the way, there's a lot. There's a lot to maturing, and what we're going to do for the next couple of episodes here, after we have some master series, we are going to take the full 3-4 hour training. We're going to chop it up into episodes so we can help everybody deep dive into this, because I just think it's really important. Because at the end of the day, if we're not focused on maturing in our business, we're going to lose some steam in our business, because it's going to become all about the accomplishment, and it's going to be unfulfilling over time. But for this conversation, we'll just say that there's 4 overarching themes to maturity. The first one is intentionality. So one of the signs that you are maturing is when you go from being unintentional or unthoughtful with your actions, with your calendaring, and with the use of your time, to being intentional. Being intentional will cost you something. And that's one of the reasons it's a sign of maturity, because when somebody is fully self-centered, there is some significant resistance to things that cost you, because I don't want it to cost me, right? That this whole world's all about me, right? So intentionality.
Yeah, I really like the way that you put it. This whole world's all about me. You see a lot of people, especially in the real estate industry, that they feel like their world is all about them. But if we all had that, like, there's no way that this all coexists.
Right. It doesn't work right.
Yep. So our second overarching sign of maturity is others focused.
Yeah. So we did a deep dive into that, and that is that if you sit back and you listen to what you say, you look at what you post, right? And you just kind of look at the general way that you interact with people. Do you interact with people from this place of, I'm here to serve and I'm here to give? Or am I maybe serving or giving solely for the sake of receiving? And if I don't receive, I get really bent out of shape, right? That ends up becoming just a sign of a lack of maturity. Again, it has to do with being self-focused as opposed to others-focused.
Yeah, you hear the sayings like, are you a giver or a taker?
Yeah, giver, taker, or matcher. Yeah. I would say that the giver is mature. And from Adam Grant's research, there's 2 buckets of givers. There are givers that end up getting taken advantage of, and he kind of says, that can be all givers. But there are people that give and serve at such a high level that they end up actually just being the recipients of so much reciprocity from all the people that they serve, because they just give and give and give and give and give. What a great way to live.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the service and the trust, right? Because I think every level of service involves some level of trust, right? And I love the thought of going first on that service thing, and just trusting and believing that it's going to work out.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. Okay, so our third is reflective practice.
Yeah. So one of the big areas for me to mature and to continue to mature in is reflective practice, and that is, we go through high levels of doing things, right? So if you're achieving and if you're pushing forward and you're like pressing towards your goal, you're doing a lot of stuff. You're having lots of conversations with people. You're having lots of interactions, and one of the ways that we need to one of the things that we need to embrace when it comes to our maturity is we need to understand that if we don't stop and reflect, we can actually we can continue to propagate really bad patterns, or even hurt people and not go back and work through like forgiveness and those different skills, or those different like kind of heart issues. And it really comes down to, am I mature enough to stop and think and reflect on what is it that I'm experiencing? What are other people experiencing? Holy smokes, that was a big light bulb for me. As many years ago now, I remember I was sitting talking to my wife, and I had this epiphany. I said, holy smokes, I just realized I'm a really intense person. And my wife looked at me like, graciously, you must be the most unself-aware person ever to exist. She didn't say that, but it was like...
The look said it.
Her look said it, yeah. Right? And it was... and for me to be at the age that I was when I came to this conclusion was just totally immature. It was me not reflecting. And then, of course, the issues are, If I'm an intense personality, how do other people experience me? I only get to see through my lens without reflection of how everybody experiences me. And everybody experiences me through my story, through my hallucination. But all of a sudden, I realize, man, I send these massive ripple effects through my world. Some of those people get to surf on, some of them they just get wiped out by, right? Reflective practice, super important for being able to not be destructive and to be able to continue to mature.
Yeah, another aspect of that reflective practice is not repeating the same things over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Like same mistakes. I think everybody's done that, but I know that I've been guilty of repeating the same problem over and over and over and expecting a different result.
So many times, and it's so easy to do because if we're not maturing into reflective practices, we don't do like in the military, they do what's called an after action report, right? Where they really break down what everybody experienced so that they can go back and do the same thing or not do the same thing again.
Nice. Okay, our fourth and final point of this, like you said, there's a ton of them.
Yes.
And we're going to be breaking them down more. There's going to be action guides. There's going to be all those things to be able to really work through this, which I highly recommend. I didn't teach any of this. I got to sit through all of it, and it was super impactful for me. So I highly recommend you go do that as well. The final one for today is going to be our impulse control.
Yes, impulse control. Okay, so one of the big signs of maturity is it's tied. Impulse control and delayed gratification are kind of, really, really closely related. And that is that it's a sign of my immaturity if I feel something and feel justified in acting however way that I feel, regardless of the consequence. Again, it's like really self-indexed. It's very, very self-centered. Instead of me thinking about this feeling and wanting just to justify my actions because of the way I feel or whatever, I need to be able to control my impulses. And so this means, like the old saying is stop and count to 10. Well, what was that advice for? It was for kind of maybe like a really basic way of helping people understand that impulse control matters. When we are maturing, when somebody is mature in this area, they don't pop off on social media and say things that they're going to regret. Right, man, I can't tell you the times that somebody posts something and instantly you feel so justified in saying whatever that thing is that's going to not change anybody's mind, probably going to hurt somebody, and just tell everybody you're immature. Right, but the immediate emotions are, you feel justified in it. You're like, got you, all of those different things, and we have those same experiences when we just say that one thing to our spouse that we know is going to make us feel good in the moment. Man, and it's going to do damage for weeks or months, right? That is a sign of maturity, is can I stop? Can I control my impulse and actually think and process through what the best thing is going to be, especially the best thing for the relationship?
Yeah, and I'm going to give you an example of a sign of a maybe not mature leader is when your impulse control causes you to constantly be changing platforms or changing systems or changing ways of doing things and not realizing the effect that has on the people that are working for you. It's that your impulse control to constantly be pivoting. We've talked all sorts of things about pivoting and not, in the past. But that is an impulse control issue. Oh,
it's such an important one because everybody experiences whiplash in your company when you don't have impulse control. And it shows up around, I saw all these people that I look up to and respect, and they all said this is the best thing ever, even though it's been 2 weeks, right? And so that takes impulse control. And then right after impulse control, it takes maturity to slow down and to genuinely vet something, even though I know that that's going to be exhausting. Right. It's a sign of maturity.
Yep. Nice. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I am super pumped for you guys to get to watch this whole training and get to go through all of it because, like I said, was super impactful for me. And I know that everybody that was there was impacted and really excited about learning it. And it was probably one of the most thoughtful interactions with people that I, in a class setting that I've had. People really were digging into it and loving it.
It was super good. So we're really excited for everybody to kind of come along for this ride. And And, more than somebody's real estate career, we want to, from a missional perspective, we want to build wealth and wholeness. And this whole idea of maturing, I think, is a great way to frame it and think about it. So we're just thankful everybody came along for the ride.
Nice. Well, thank you for tuning in today, guys. As always, we are here to impact, empower, and encourage you in your real estate business and in your life.
Yes. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for joining us.